Formerly the most influential figure in the known world, Marcus Aurelius made an endeavor to lead a virtuous life in accordance with Stoic philosophy. In contrast to numerous Roman emperors, he refrained from indulging in the abundant pleasures at his disposal, abstaining from excessive wine consumption, and spectating sadistic events at the Coliseum. Marcus Aurelius was driven by the desire to fulfill the mission entrusted to him by fortune, which revolved around serving humanity. Consequently, he held a profound commitment to realizing his purpose. However, to achieve this, he recognized the necessity of diminishing his concern for matters that lacked worthiness or wisdom, and it's important to note that such matters were quite abundant. One of the essential concepts in Stoicism is the schism between things we control and do not control, which Epictetus Enchiridion explains so clearly. Most, if not all, things beyond our own actions are not up to us. Does that mean we should renounce the world? Not necessarily. But the Stoics believed that we should be realistic about our limited influence on these things, and that we create an unnecessary burden for ourselves if we aren't. When life becomes painful, it frequently indicates that we invest our emotions in matters beyond our control. In doing so, we inadvertently grant these matters the authority to manipulate and control us like puppeteers. Paradoxically, we then point fingers at these puppeteers for pulling our strings, failing to realize that we have given them the power to do so. However, by disengaging our emotional investment in these matters, we strip them of their influence over us, granting ourselves the serenity to remain undisturbed. For Marcus Aurelius, being unperturbed by things outside of his control allowed him to cope with the many responsibilities and challenges he faced as an emperor, and to focus on the task he believed he was given by the gods. For Epictetus, it meant freedom. For other people, not being moved by external forces or a selection of them could be a way to focus on goals that do matter, and for others, it could simply be a path to a happy, carefree life. When life hurts, what are the things we should stop occupying ourselves with? And the most important is, how do we do it? This video is an exploration and free interpretation of Marcus Aurelius's philosophy on how to care less about things that aren't worth caring about. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius repeatedly differentiates between the present, past, and future. In each category, the ancient Roman emperor has valuable things to say about how we either care too much about them, or in the wrong ways, or about the wrong things. For clarity and structure, this essay is subdivided into these categories, starting with the future. As Seneca eloquently articulated, we often endure more distress within the confines of our imagination than in the actuality of our experiences. This assertion underscores the notion that our thoughts serve as the wellspring of our suffering. When we direct our attention to the future, our imagination frequently runs rampant, conjuring up myriad scenarios of potential events, most of which are unlikely to materialize. In anticipation, we contemplate strategies to navigate these potential outcomes, all the while trembling in apprehension due to our uncertainty about how the future will ultimately unfold. In some instances, what happens is what we anticipate, but in many other instances, fortune surprises us, overwhelming us with events we couldn't have anticipated. Consider this scenario. We might have dedicated years to meticulously planning and saving for a well-deserved retirement, only to be confronted, just as we approach the threshold of our golden years, with a devastating cancer diagnosis that grants us mere months to leave. The mere possibility of such events frequently plunges individuals into ceaseless anxiety. The spectrum of potential outcomes ranges from the best-case scenarios to the worst-case scenarios. What if a catastrophic Third World War erupts? What if we experience a complete financial loss? These dire consequences are undeniably within the realm of possibility. But as long as they aren't happening in the present, we cannot deal with them. As these events simply aren't happening, at least not yet, they only exist in our thoughts. The future only bothers us because we think about it, as it does not exist outside the mind. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that it's not the burden of the future that weighs upon us, but rather the weight of the present moment alone. The future itself is not what inflicts harm upon us. Rather, it is our present handling of it that determines our suffering. The distress stemming from future events actually occurs within the present. Ironically, the future does not unfold in the present, for when we encounter it, it is already the present. Thus, the misery associated with the future arises from our current worries and preoccupations. When we care too much about future events, life eventually begins to hurt as we suffer them in our imagination, letting them dictate our present. So, what does Marcus Aurelius say about caring too much about the future? First, let's consider the following quote: "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." End quote. He underscored the notion that if he could effectively navigate the present, he possessed the capacity to confront the challenges of the future as well. He advised himself against dwelling on all the potential dreadful scenarios that could unfold, instead encouraging a focus on the immediate circumstances at hand. When he focused on the present, he realized he could bear it. And if that's the case, why wouldn't he be able to handle what's yet to come? This attitude resembles the idea of amor fati, the love of fate, but then fortified with trust that we'll be able to get through it. The past. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of how fast existence passes by and disappears in the infinite beyond our grasp. The past, as the future, is a realm we cannot operate in. What's gone is gone, and unless we invent the time machine, we can't change anything about it. Marcus Aurelius succinctly stated, "Remember that man lives only in the present, in this fleeting instant. All the rest of his life is either past and gone, or not yet revealed." Short, therefore, is man's life, and narrow is the corner of the earth wherein he dwells. Despite the narrowness of our lives, which only occurs in the present moment, we're often overly occupied with these areas that lie outside of it and cannot be entered, the future and the past. Marcus Aurelius stated that the past signifies as much as nothing and is at present indifferent. It's not that events that have happened in the past don't influence the present or that we cannot learn from past events. It's just that we cannot work with the past, as it's out of our reach. And often our memories of the past are scrambled and ways to verify what exactly happened are limited. We rely on recollections from personal perspectives and different viewpoints of ourselves or others. So, the past is not only out of reach, our remembrance of it is most likely inaccurate. Nevertheless, we persist in our emotional attachment to past events, frequently replaying them in our thoughts, thereby reliving the anguish they once inflicted upon us. Some hold the belief that by contemplating the past we might exert some influence over it. However, this is a deceptive illusion. The past exists as an irretrievable entity. It has slipped away beyond our grasp. All that remains within our purview is our ability to manage our thoughts concerning something that has long been washed away, never to return. Many individuals find themselves uttering phrases like, "I wish I could have handled that differently." Yet such wishes are founded upon the unattainable. These thoughts serve only to arouse desires that can never be fulfilled, offering no productive gain. Instead of focusing on the past events in themselves, Marcus Aurelius focused on his reaction toward them. We cannot control past events. Most likely, we also couldn't prevent them when they occurred in the present. But we can control how we position ourselves toward these events. Initially, we might consider the past unfortunate, We might have had difficult childhoods or experienced the ending of friendships or failed business ventures. But according to Marcus Aurelius, the nature of these events isn't so important. What counts is how we handle them. He stated, "It's unfortunate that this has happened. No, it's fortunate that this has happened, and I've remained unharmed by it, not shattered by the present or frightened of the future." It could have happened to anyone, but not everyone could have remained unharmed by it. Why treat the one as a misfortune rather than the other as fortunate? Can you really call something a misfortune that doesn't violate human nature? Or do you think something that's not against nature's will can violate it, but you know what its will is? Does what's happened keep you from acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness, and all the other qualities that allow a person's nature to fulfill itself? Interestingly, Marcus Aurelius did not completely dismiss the significance of the past. Instead, he recognized its potential value as a source of learning. He believed that by examining the patterns and rhythms within the past, how events tend to ebb and flow, often repeating themselves, we can gain insights to help us anticipate and prepare for the future. This perspective allows us to extrapolate from the past to inform our understanding of what may lie ahead. The present. Marcus Aurelius frequently emphasizes that the present moment is our sole domain. It is the confined realm to which we hold immediate access. It serves as a vantage point from which we can peer into the boundless depths of the past and the inscrutable obscurity of the future. Marcus Aurelius maintained a commitment to anchoring himself in the present and concentrating on what fell within his sphere of control, the present moment. Nevertheless, even when we manage to relinquish our grip on the past and reduce our anxieties regarding the future, we often find ourselves expending excessive concern on matters that lack true significance, matters unfolding before our eyes at this very instant. Frequently, we experience discontentment with the unfolding of life in the here and now, and when events deviate from our desires, it is common for us to succumb to emotions like anger, sadness, or despair. But according to Marcus Aurelius, being emotionally disturbed by what fortune throws at us is pointless. How the world around us unfolds itself is not up to us. How we react to it is. Yet we tend to get disturbed because we don't like what's happening, or what we want to happen doesn't happen. Marcus Aurelius stated that we shouldn't fight what we're compelled to. He compared people who struggle with fortune to pigs, kicking and squealing when sacrificed. It's no use, as we can't avoid what the gods have in store. We cannot stop people from wanting to fight wars. We cannot stop natural disasters from happening. We cannot prevent our bodies from aging. Similarly, we are unable to compel the world to fulfill our desires. There is no guarantee that those we are drawn to will reciprocate our feelings, and it is not assured that all individuals will experience life's opportunities equally. This is an inherent impossibility. Yet we often expend a considerable amount of time and energy resisting the immutable aspects of reality, things we are powerless to change, regardless of the methods at our disposal. Our emotions vacillate between anger due to unfulfilled desires and sadness when confronted with undesired circumstances. Consequently, the present moment morphs into a tormenting chamber in which we endure the capricious whims of fortune. Conversely, there are instances when we become infatuated with the present, clinging to it tenaciously. Fearful of relinquishing what we possess, we once again relinquish control to the whims of fortune. But from our total entanglement in all around us, fleeting and ungovernable, we're often unable to see what's truly up to us, our choices, actions, and opinions. Marcus Aurelius saw the law of nature as our master. If we run from it, or feel grief or anger about it, we're nothing more than deserters and fugitives. We must accept the ways of nature, embrace them, and focus on dealing with them instead of wasting our energy being disgusted by or clinging to our circumstances. In the 7th book of his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius imparted a method for embracing the present. He argued that our focus should center on what we currently possess, rather than fixating on what we lack. However, he advised exercising caution in this approach. In his own words, treat what you don't have as non-existent. Look at what you have, the things you value most, and think of how much you'd crave them if you didn't have them. But be careful. Don't derive such excessive satisfaction that you begin to overestimate their worth, to the extent that losing them would cause you distress. Nonetheless, embracing one's circumstances can pose a considerable challenge, especially in the face of significant hardships and when life serves us a series of lemons. One might wonder if it's too much to ask for a respite. However, Marcus Aurelius contended that adversity should not serve as a justification for reacting like panicked, distressed animals. Instead, he asserted that such challenges represent opportunities to practice virtue, essentially meaning the application of Stoic philosophy in one's life. The essence of living does not revolve around the splendor and fortune of our external circumstances, for these aspects are inherently capricious, frail, and beyond our control. What truly matters, according to the Stoics, is how we confront the situations that unfold before us. This, Marcus Aurelius believed, should be our primary concern. As Marcus Aurelius stated, because to me the present is a chance for the exercise of rational virtue, civic virtue, in short, the art that men share with gods. Both treat whatever happens as wholly natural, not novel or hard to deal with, but familiar and easily handled. That's all for today. I really hope you liked this video. If you do, consider subscribing to the channel. Do not forget to verify the link in the first comment below. If you've watched until the end, please comment "Dare me" for me to know. I'll read all the comments. For your attention, thank you so much. May you be with the Creator.